What's up, everybody? We are going to go live here on all platforms in just a moment. And I could bring in these friends over there on Facebook and on Twitter. Give me 1 second. It's very bright in here. Oh, my goodness. All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? My name is Garrett Chapman, and this is the Falcons Podcast. We got another short show here today, a little 30-minute bender here on the Falcons Podcast. But if you're new here, welcome. Excited to have you in. Excited to bring you in and kind of chat with some Falcons stuff. And looking forward to kind of discussing some of the things that we have going on here, because not a lot positive, but the Falcons still have a big opportunity here in front of them. They still have a chance to beat the New Orleans Saints, and that's something to talk about as well. So welcome in. If it's your first time coming, welcome. If it's your second time, it's your first time coming back, welcome to you as well. Anybody, no matter where you're getting your podcast, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, and make sure to drop a comment and follow along. We do this every single Tuesday and Thursday. We like to do it all and talk a little Atlanta Falcons. And I do want to start here with the big question for all of you. And I'll take your questions too. So drop those into the comments, and I'll get to those as I get them. And I will try to do what I can with that. So, but thank you all for jumping in here. But look, what is the Falcons' future at quarterback? It is not super great. I got a feature coming out tomorrow morning. Make sure to give me a follow at GChatPTL to go check that out. It is bleak. And you talk about where the Falcons were in 2024, coming out of that season with Desmond Ridder. You fired Arthur Smith. You're trying to move into a brand new generation of just Falcons football. And they made one big promise to themselves, this front office did, when they hired Raheem Morris and everybody brought everybody in for the staff. And they said that we're going to avoid what has happened here the last couple of years, that started with Matt Ryan, that goes on and turns into basically what they called quarterback hell. Marcus Mariota starts a season, and then you have Desmond Ridder starting a season. And well, none of them complete the season necessarily, but I mean, it was just a bad situation here in Atlanta. So what they do is they take the aggressive approach. They go sign Kirk Cousins to this $180 million contract. Granted, $100 million of that was guaranteed, but it's still a big contract. And then you bring in Michael Penix. Shocked everybody, and it was controversial at best, and it looked really good at the end of last year, saying, all right, you got your backup option, you're looking good. And then they held on to Kirk Cousins, and the whole thing has just been not great this season. And the results have just not been what they want them to be. And it's so bitterly ironic that they find themselves in the exact same situation after the moves that they found that they did. Right. I very rarely do you see somebody rewrite the NFL in terms of the way that you get things done and have it come out in their favor. It's generally not something that happens. I was having a conversation with somebody about that very topic today, and I likened it back to what happened with the Wildcat offense back in, what was it, 2007, 2008, with the Miami Dolphins. I mean, it was great. It was revolutionary for a year, and then teams figured it out. And they got on top of it and had an offseason to fix it. And you never heard from it again. And occasionally it'll show up in packages or something like that. But as far as the foundation of your offense, those days are gone. You cannot run something that way, right? And it's something that's so painfully clear throughout NFL history. We got 100 years of this shit, man. 100 years. And it's been extremely consistent that you got it. You go get one guy at quarterback, you get that and make that your guy, and then you go from there. And the Falcons did it their own way, and it's burned them. And look, you can talk about quarterbacks coming along slowly and doing their thing on the bench and learning and coming and maturing, but that's not what they did in Atlanta. That's not what the Falcons did. They went and signed a very expensive free agent, brought him in with promises of one thing, and you're going to go get him weapons and do everything else, and then you draft the quarterback and basically blindside this guy. And it's a very frustrating situation that I want to be careful that I'm not just badgering them, badgering's not the right word, coming after them with hindsight, right? Everybody can be Captain Hindsight. I was saying this in the time that it was a very controversial decision. I think a lot of people did. And I think that turned a little bit at the end of last year. And now we're just learning that it's just more the same, and it's the way that it all happened, because I think the Falcons had something in their plan that he was going to be the starting quarterback for 2 seasons. And then after that, it was going to be Mike's. Went by the wayside pretty quickly. like very, very quickly. And at that point, it became painfully clear that this team was struggling with their identity and struggling with their plan. And I floated this idea a couple of years ago, and it's more just a feeling that I have. It's not based off of intel. It's not based off of anything like that. But it's the fact that Terry Fontenot feels like he's run this without a clear plan of what he wants to do. And it seems like he gets tunnel visioned on individual players, on individual things, like whether that's a quarterback, whether it's a pass rush, or whether it's something else. And he falls in love with it. And then after that, that's all he's going to do. I think that's what happened with Kyle Pitts. I think that's what happened with James Pierce in this most recent draft. I think that's what happened with Michael Penix. I think that's what happened with Drake London and Bijan Robinson. It didn't matter necessarily what else was going on. That's my guy. I'm going to go get that guy. He did it with Ruka Rororo, where he trades up to go get him. I mean, you've seen him do that time and again. Troy Anderson, I think he did the same thing with that one. And that's just the draft. And then when you talk about everything else, the quarterback position, I don't think he was lying to Kirk when he signed him. I think he just changed his idea, changed his plan. And that's why he drafts Michael Penix. And it's one of those very frustrating situations that it's a first-time general manager. And look, he's good at bringing in professional players. But the pro personnel look that Terry has done here in Atlanta has been pretty good, right? I mean, you talk about the Jesse Bates. You could talk about just all of these top-end people that he's brought in. Leonard Floyd has not really worked out, but he's the most recent of them. I mean, Caden Ellis is somebody who's Divine Diablo. Mike Hughes, I know a lot of people have been critical of him, but he's been a good acquisition. I mean, you've had several people here that you've brought in. Darnell Mooney was a 1,000-yard receiver damn near last year. So as far as acquiring players, I think he's done a pretty good job in that. But his draft record has been not great, and it's something where it's you're banking on a lot of them. And I think this year has been a good season. And I think last year you're starting to see some of the fruits of those players. And it's not that he's a bad general manager. I'm not trying to say that, but he has made some pretty big gambles that have not paid off. And one of them goes back to this summer with Darnell Mooney when he broke his collarbone. You were so tied to everything that you made with this Kirk Cousins decision, with that big fish, that big swing that you took, that you couldn't afford to go get any other players in here to go do anything. And you're paying all that money for a backup quarterback who, look, he has not been good. He's not been good. He struggled. And this is a guy who comes off of the bench against Miami, and he looks like a backup quarterback. He looks like a bad backup quarterback. And I see some of these comments. I'm going to jump into this here in just a second. But it's just frustrating, and it's something that the Falcons are going to have to figure out. They have 7 games left this season. We'll see what they can do with it. I mean, Kirk Cousins, I do not foresee that he's going to be on this roster next year. I think there's a good bit of bad blood. I think he wants to get out of Atlanta. I think he wants to go off and do his own thing. You still have a $35 million dead cap hit that you could spread over 2 years, which is fine. It's not what it is now. I think it's $55 million or something like that right now. It's not great, the place that the Falcons find themselves in. And to the other frustrating thing about this season right now is just the brutal injury luck. They have been just snake bit all season. And it's not their fault. Like I talk about Darnell Mooney. I mean, it's not their fault. It's their fault when they don't have the necessary wide receiver depth that it takes to win at the NFL level, at this level. And then your third wide receiver, you cut him after a month or two into the season. That is your fault. But Darnell Mooney getting hurt and then coming back and immediately getting a hamstring injury. And then you have your right tackle lost to the season, then your swing tackle lost to the season, then you lose your left guard, then you lose your right guard, who, I mean, he's playing, but he's far from healthy. We'll talk about the injury report coming up here in a little bit. You lose Drake London now for at least 2 games. You lose your starting quarterback for a game in the middle of the season, and then you lose him for the rest of the season with 7 weeks to go. You lose your left tackle for a game. He leaves a game. He hasn't been healthy. He's been dealing with an ankle injury for a long time. You lose your sack leader. You lose your leader of your defense in Divine Diablo. You lose Billy Bowman, your rookie
standout at nickel. You lose your Jalen Walker. Mike Hughes has been gone for 2 games. AJ Terrell missed 4 games, whatever it was. This team has been snake bit. You have been hit with injuries at every single level, at every single position on this team, not even to mention the depth players who have been smacked in Jamal Agnew. Like you talk about, Kadero Hodge missed a couple of games. You look at Casey Washington missed a couple of games. That kind of thing piles on a team, and it's going to potentially cost Raheem Morris his job and potentially Terry Fontenot, because everything was gearing up for, I believe, to 2026. And all of that has gone down in flames completely. And it's to the point now where obviously the news comes out about Michael Penix, and he's going to have knee surgery that's going to put him on the shelf until at the earliest beginning of like OTAs or something, which was May-ish, June, at probably the earliest. And worst case scenario, he goes into the regular season still rehabbing. It's dire. It's a bad situation, and it's very frustrating here because this team was so bullish in their moves, so aggressive in what they were doing, and it's bit them. It's come back to the chickens have come home to roost, if you will. All right, let me jump into your comments. I know it's kind of a negative way to start the podcast, but at the same time, it's like you're 3-7, and you got a head coach who's potentially losing his job. It's not positive. It's not where it's going to be. And we can look to the future here in the weeks to come. But that's where we stand right now. And now you get the New Orleans Saints, a team who's all of a sudden won 2 games in a row. And you're fighting with this team now for the bottom of the NFC South. And things don't look good at Flower Branch. All right, let me jump into your comments here. Let's see. John Harrell, 6547 over there on YouTube says, my opinion, we should start Easton Stick. No, you're paying Kirk Cousins an absurd amount of money, and he's going to be your starting quarterback. Now, if he loses to the point where he is just so god-awful that he needs to be pulled off the field, fine. I mean, but we're not there yet. That's not the situation. You're paying him a lot of money to come in and take snaps. So I know there is still a lot of built-up animosity for folks and where Kirk Cousins is, I guess, on this team, and the situation that he left this franchise in last year after lying to the media, after doing everything that he did at the end of last year, middle of the season, and then he goes on television and tells everybody that he was hurt. And I don't want to relitigate all that stuff. It was painful then, and it's painful now. They should have ended their playoff streak last year, but I digress. All right. Albert Molina says, we just need to bring big names to bring fans and hope. Look what the Bucs did in 2020 and just 2 stars. That's much deeper than that. They had several people on that team that were already at a level of competition. They were a good team that just needed a quarterback. They were a really good team, actually, that just needed a quarterback. It takes a lot more than 2 stars. And of course, you're talking about Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, and it was great. Antonio Brown was on that team. They brought him in for the twilight years or whatever. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot bigger than that. They had established stars throughout that roster. I mean, you had a tremendous offensive line. You had a tremendous defensive line. The defense already was really good. And I think this Falcons defense can potentially get to that level. We'll see. I think the return of one big person on the defense is going to be pretty telling in that regard. But it's not about 2 people. It's not about going and getting the big fish or whatever. And there's no Tom Brady on the open market either. Let's be pretty clear about that. Yeah, those are 2 Hall of Famers, but this team is not that close, unfortunately. Michael Rojas says management said ATL was going to draft this was not going to draft this high again. Not only are they dead wrong, but it could be worse. Even a top 5 pick, worst case scenario. All talk, no results. Yeah, I mean it's a frustrating spot here for the Falcons. Exceedingly frustrating. Right? This is a team who I think I don't think cocky's the right word when I say that, but I mean, for lack of a better one, that's what I'm going to go with. They were cocky with where they thought this team was. And I think that it was a misunderstanding of where your team lined up. I mean, but you've seen some of the results. They were good enough. This team was 6-3 when they were clicking on all cylinders last year, and they were humming. And then your quarterback got hurt. And then this year, I mean, you never got up off the ground, but you had the big moments. When the team was actually somewhat healthy, they were pretty good. And then it just all goes awry. And look, it's just one of the unfortunate realities. But also at the same time, you could say the same thing about the San Francisco 49ers. Their season went awry too. They lost several starters. They lost all pros. They lost big guys, big names. Their starting quarterback. They figured it out. Next man up league. They've said that several times, and Raheem himself has said injuries are not an excuse, and I won't give it to them. Tyree Butler says on Facebook, says, I don't know what to think now. I mean, it's a tough spot, and it's the unfortunate reality is that we could potentially be looking at a rebuild, and that's unfortunate. It's a really unfortunate thing here. But again, we're not there yet. I mean, this season's not even over. We still have 7 weeks to go. I mean, this is a defense that potentially is getting Divine Diablo back. And that's the big positive right now. And I mean, obviously, I was just talking about how one player is bigger than them. I'm fascinated to see what they look like this weekend for one big reason, because far too often it has appeared that they have quit in games, that they are starting to kind of take their foot off the gas, where they're not crisp in the way that they should be. And you talk about execution, you could talk about all these other things like I have several times on this podcast. And the thing that defense, what the defense was doing in that second half, it looked like there was a little bit of panic in them. It looked like there was a little desperation in them, and that's a bad sign. I still think that they're going to fight for Raheem. I still think that they're going to fight for this team and the other guys here. I just wonder what that looks like on Sunday, because you need to see that. If the moment you start seeing a team quit, like give up on the season, that's at that point, that's the time you need to make a regime change. Excuse me. Are we there yet? I think Sunday might be a pretty telling thing. But last Sunday I said the same thing, and no change was made. And maybe they're going to see it out. I don't really know, but I mean, it might be a nail in the coffin type of game on Sunday, unfortunately. All right. August 809, or AUG, I guess. I'm assuming it's August. Raheem Morris is clueless head coach. Hopefully Blank lets him go at the end of the year. I mean, I'm not going to say he's clueless. He's a very intelligent coach. He's a great motivator. I think the players love him. He's not clueless. I think that's a harsh thing to say. John Roberts comes over and says they need more weapons. Yeah, of course they do. I mean, this is, and the frustrating thing is you should have enough weapons. You should. Between Darnell Mooney and Drake London and Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Tyler Algier, that sounds like enough to me. It's just, you need your baseline players, your threes and your fours at the wide receiver position, your wide receiver 3 and your wide receiver 4 to be enough. And they need to be capable of at least stepping in and being competent, being strong. And David Sills is not that. And Casey Washington has shown that he's not that, unfortunately. And look, I was cheering for both these guys. I was very excited about what Casey Washington could do, but he hasn't been that. He hasn't. And then Charlie Warner's your other tight end. He's not a receiving tight end. He's not a threat. He's just an extension of your offensive line. So it's just kind of where they find themselves. And when Drake is gone, I have a lot of issues here with what this offense is going to look like. But maybe we're going to get that takeoff that Darnell Mooney has been kind of, he hasn't been promising it. His teammates have been promising it. So maybe Darnell Mooney comes in and he can take over and do something big. But until he shows it, I'm not going to believe it. Tyree Butler says frustrating is saying it nice. Yeah, frustrating is I'm not giving up either, Tyree. I mean, it's just, we're going to ride it out. We're going to ride it out. You got 7 weeks left. Falcons 07 says they put themselves in a position that if everything doesn't go perfectly, you end up exactly where you are. Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of what the NFL is. I mean, you have a plan, you go all in on it, and you hope for the best if you're management. And it's burned them this year, and it just hasn't really gone super well. And the thing that frustrated me the most, especially with that Darnell Mooney injury over the summer, was that you were really, really gambling on him getting back in time for week 1. And he didn't. He still needed that ramp up period. He was limited, I believe, that week of practice. And then he gets the hamstring injury soon after that. And that completely derailed everything. And soft tissue issues are notorious for being lingering. And then, of course, he leaves last Sunday's game, I believe, with some injury but he comes back in that one. And he hasn't popped up on the injury report since, but we'll see. It's just a bad situation, and it's just comedy of errors when it comes to the health specifically. Come on through. Albert Molina says, I believe with an experienced head coach, we can make progress. No more new head coaches. Last four coaches were new head coaches. Raheem Morris was not a new head coach. So he was somebody who, I guess some people call them retreads. I think that's the term that a lot of people have used. He's coached before, so he's been a head coach. He had 4 years of coaching experience. It didn't go necessarily too well. It was when he was down in Tampa. And I mean, it hasn't really been going well since, I mean, it's been a tough situation here in Atlanta for Raheem. And, but he does have experience. He has done it before. I tend to agree with you, though. I think that they need somebody to come in and reestablish some culture, reestablish something. And I need to see somebody outside of what they were doing, because Raheem was here in Atlanta with Dan Quinn. And I think to some level, this decision to go to Raheem Morris was very much hey, let's try to get back to the guy who got us to a Super Bowl, which is a fine strategy. It's just, you see a lot of the same culture, right? And it's kind of a snip, snap kind of thing. With the left, you go all the way to Dan Quinn, and you go all the way to Arthur Smith, and you go all the way back to Raheem Morris. It's kind of how it felt. And I think ultimately you need to go get somebody who, Mike McCarthy or somebody, an experienced head coach, somebody who's been around, somebody who's done things for a long time and has won some games. And I don't care about Super Bowls at this point. I care about somebody who's going to come in and stabilize this franchise, because they desperately need that. They need to get to a level of just getting to a winning record, being competitive. They haven't been that for a while now. And when you are in that kind of situation, it's really, really, really easy to turn into the New York Jets. And that is what the Falcons are in danger of being. If not for the Jets, the Falcons would have the longest active streak of winless seasons. Not winless, below 500. It's not great. It's not great. And that's where the Falcons are right now. So I tend to agree with you on that point. Samuel Davis says this team reeks of bad luck. Seemingly every plan doesn't go their way. Yeah, I mean, recently with Terry and the rest of this, yeah, that's kind of how it's gone. Terry drafted Drake and Bijan, and Algier have been his best drafts. I mean, sure. I mean, you can point to Drake London, who was the first wide receiver off the board. You can point to Bijan Robinson, who was a generational talent that I could see that he was going to be an elite talent in the NFL. Tyler Algier was a great find, probably the best example that you've pulled here. Better examples are, I don't know, Brandon Dorlus or somebody like that too. Terry, like I said, Terry's been decent enough at finding some talent. He's been dreadful in second rounds. He's been pretty bad in third rounds too. Like, we got to talk about Jalen Mayfield. We got to talk about Desmond Ridder. I mean, you got to talk about all these other people who are not even in the NFL anymore, and you're investing top 100 picks in them. Those guys exist too. Troy Anderson's another one of those guys. Arnold Ebiketie is another one of those guys. He's in the league, obviously he's on this team, but hasn't really turned into what you expected him to be. And it's very frustrating, to say the least. But no, to your point, I mean, he has drafted some great players, but don't save the top 10 picks. I don't want to hear about the top 10 picks who turned into good players, right? Those are expected to be all pro level players, and they are. Drake London is potentially a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now. Bijan Robinson is top 3 in the NFL at the running back position. Those guys are studs, right? Don't get me wrong. But a lot of the other guys have not panned out in the same way. So save the top 10 picks, respectfully. Keep on going through. Samuel Davis says the culture has to change. The brass has to abandon their comfort zone when hiring coaches and upper management. Yeah, I think that there's a good chance that happens. I mean, it just remains to be seen what it actually looks like. We aren't even there yet. Raheem is still the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He still may end up the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He has not been fired. It may happen. It may happen sooner rather than later. It might happen at the end of the season. It may happen in the end of next season. Who knows? I mean, Raheem is, I think the ownership and the players like him. It's just, if you lose in the way that they've been losing right now, it's very hard to make excuses for it after 5 weeks of losing. It gets very difficult. Albert Molina says you bring Deion Sanders and money and fans and players will come to ATL. I don't buy that necessarily. I mean, if you want to just bring the circus to town, I mean, then go do it. If you just want to have a coach who's going to be fun in press conferences and like pop social media and stuff like that, I want a winning head coach. And I mean, Deion Sanders is a fine coach, right? He's a fine at Colorado. He was good at Jackson State, but he's been fine at Colorado. I don't see why. I don't see any reason why he would be a head coach in the NFL. And I don't foresee it happening here in Atlanta. Keep on rolling through. John Payne says Raheem Morris's head coaching record is 32-54. Comparing that to active NFL head coaches, he ranks very low. Actually, it's the lowest of active head coaches, I believe, right now, pretty definitively, unfortunately, John. Corey on YouTube says, what bothers me about this regime is their absolute refusal to do things the easy or traditional way on the field, off the field, or in the draft. I mean, yes and no. I mean, some of the things they've done have been traditional, I mean, the non-traditional thing and the big swing that they took at the quarterback position, that's the clear and obvious example there, Corey. But at the same time, you'd have had some pretty traditional things that they've done, right? It just hasn't worked out super well, and it's just a frustrating spot that they find themselves in right now. I'm going to jump in here. I see Albert Molina says putting Kyle Trask. He could be the one at Mayfield and Sam Darnold. I mean, there's a reason he was a free agent, had been a free agent for the last 2 months. I mean, he's a little shaky. He's a little nervous. I don't know. I got a weird feeling just looking at it. He felt shaky to me, but that's just as somebody who has been up there at Flowery Branch. She started to jump so far ahead in the corner. Let me see. Red Swarm says, good evening, Garrett, and everyone in tonight's chat. Started to jump so far ahead in the quarterback conversation, but I'm interested in your thoughts on what next year will look like for us at the position. I think it is a crapshoot at this point. It's a very interesting kind of fluid spot. Just depends on when Michael Penix comes back from his injury. He's going to be the quarterback next year. That's my expectation, Red Swarm. But I mean, what that looks like remains to be seen. When is he going to come back from his injury? When is he going to be 100% and ready to go and take snaps and be full contact and everything? Not that a quarterback's ever really full contact, but at what point is he actually going to be able to do that? That remains to be seen. We shall see. But I mean, I'd say at the earliest, you probably get him back July or so, and he doesn't participate for much of training camp, and then he comes back and maybe he can do something, and maybe he's ready by week 1. I just have a hard time seeing it. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be a good spot for him, especially with it's coming off of his plant leg, right? So that's tough. It's really tough for a young quarterback, but he's got arm strength. He's able to get it up there, and I mean, it's not like he moves a lot in the pocket anyway, so we'll see. But it doesn't look super good, but but they're going to have to find a backup option of some kind. I don't think it's going to be Kirk Cousins. I do not foresee him being the Falcons quarterback next year. It just doesn't make sense to me. And he makes a lot of money, and you could get out of that next year. So, or in March, that is. But I mean, we'll see what that actually looks like. It just remains to be seen. Siphon M says, hot take, I would not fire head coach and GM this year. They made this mess. Let them deal with it for one more year. If it fails, it's a clean slate and not dealing with a bad hand like Arthur Smith and Terry's first run. Kind of a hot take. It is kind of a hot take, but the problem is, what does that signal to your fans? It tells them that you're just ignoring the frustrations that they're going through. And you have to set an expectation. And if you hold on to somebody after, like, say they lose several games down the stretch or whatever, these are multi-million-dollar decisions that these guys are making, and they understand like what's at stake. They know that their jobs are at stake. They absolutely do. Raheem has been very open and honest about that fact. And you don't get the opportunities to deal with your mistakes. Sometimes you make mistakes, and it becomes the job of somebody else to clean that up. All right, guys, I can only take a couple of more questions. I ended up just jumping through questions. I know we got a bunch of stuff in here. Red Swarm comes through and says, Garrett, I like the idea of a proven head coach. Yeah, that's the one that pops into my head here. But look, tons of great comments, and I'm so sorry I got to jump here. But make sure to, I'm going to try well, the next podcast, we'll get another podcast going here soon. And yeah, Maurice, you come through and say Diablo is back. Divine Diablo is back. And we will see what that actually looks like here for this Atlanta Falcons team. I got to run, though. I got to jump in to do some stuff here. That's why I'm here at the studio again. So going to be jumping in here doing some Falcon stuff. But it has been a lot of fun here chatting with you guys. I'm as frustrated as you are. It's a tough situation that the Falcons find themselves in. But if you're new here, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow along. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday here on the Falcons Podcast. Appreciate all of you guys, and we will talk here very soon. So give me a follow at GChapAT. I'll make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Until then, go beat the damn Saints.